Before we play today's episode, I want to give a special thank you to Element by Marriott, Seattle Downtown. They were gracious enough to let us host this recording here in the Sound Boardroom, and I want to share a little bit more about this space. So it's a 247 all-suite hotel located in downtown Seattle, just steps from the Space Needle. Spacious, suite-style rooms feature full kitchens, flexible workspaces, and a sleeper sofa in every room. There's complimentary daily breakfast and a rooftop patio with great views, and you can host events up there. The Element is designed for extended stays, combining comfort, wellness, and sustainability. Thank you again to Element by Marriott Seattle Downtown, and shout out to Angela May. She works in the sales department. She's a longtime listener to the podcast, and I've known her through the events industry for a few years, so I'm glad she was able to get this space for us. Now here's the episode. I'm Rachel Horgan. Join me each episode as I sit down with a guest co-host covering the latest business stories in the Seattle area. We'll read the news so you don't have to. This is The Weekly. Hello, everybody. I am excited for the summer. I had kind of mentioned that it's going to be a little bit of a slower season for me on purpose, so I have time to kind of pull together my templates, get a website finally made, and just do some of those things I've been putting off. But I also want to mention for the podcast, business news does slow down for the summer as well. So that's when I get to be a little creative with the episodes. You'll see probably some more special episodes coming in that are more focused on certain topics. I am going to sprinkle in a few more solo episodes just to kind of balance my workload with my business and the podcast. So that's coming up. And then my other update is that I hate to admit it, but I'm not doing well working from home. I live by myself, and it's hard to have the motivation to work on your own business and then also to do it at home. I don't know, for all the reasons that all the people are saying. So I toured a place today, Pioneer Collective in Ballard. I think I'm going to move forward with it, and it's going to change my life, I hope, and maybe it'll make me go to the gym over there too. So those are my updates. Sitting across from me is Matthew Gardner. He's back on the show. Welcome back.
Hello, Rachel. How are you?
I'm doing well. Do you do co-working, or are you working at your house?
I'm still working in the house, and it feels like I'm in prison.
Yeah.
I go down in the morning, I lock myself away for 12 hours, and then kind of stick my nose back out again.
Yes.
It's hard. It really is.
At least you have a separate room, though, probably, huh?
Oh, yeah. Thankfully, when my son moved out, I stole his bedroom and turned it into an office.
Oh, there you go.
Stops him from moving back in again.
That's true.
I thought, but I failed because he did. But anyway, different story.
If you recognize that lovely accent, Matthew was on about a year ago for the last time we did a mid-year economic outlook podcast episode. And if you missed it, just a quick reminder of who he is. For the past 30 years, he has analyzed economic data and its impact on the real estate market specifically. He is the former chief economist for Windermere. He lectures at UW, and he sits on many boards, including the Washington State Governor's Council of Economic Advisors. So basically, he's advising the political leaders of our state. So we have done this every year. We had Skylar Olson, chief economist of Zillow, and Matthew last year, so we brought him back. So before we get into kind of our special episode, what has changed for you in the past year? I think last time you had recently gone out on your own for your own. I know you'd always had your own company, but you'd left Windermere and kind of doing your own thing a little bit more last year. So how's that going? Is it growing? We're doing well?
Well, it is. It's an interesting world. Of course, when everything's going great, no one cares about us economists. A dime a dozen. But, right about now, we become somewhat like rock stars. Everyone's wondering what the heck is going on.
Yeah.
And is there going to be an end to it? So, yeah, there's a lot of questions that are floating around right now. So I'm spending a lot of time trying to address those, both at the local and certainly at the state level, seeing as I've now working with the third governor that I've had the pleasure of working with. So, yeah, it's interesting times.
Okay, so today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about big picture economics, the housing market, and some advice he may have for us, whether we're buying or selling. We're going to touch on the job market a little bit, and then we're going to close out with Matthew's predictions with his magic 8-ball here. So overall, how would you describe the U.S. economy? I think what we're seeing is like everything's expensive, but what's this data? What's the stats?
Well, I didn't know you knew about my magic 8-ball. But,
oh, no, the secret's out.
Exactly. Well, I think that the honest answer is, as far as the U.S. economy goes, is that we're growing, but the engine's running a bit rough, is the best way I can describe it. I mean, nationally, we grew about, 1.6% in the first quarter. That's based on GDP. So we're growing, but the engine's running a little bit rough. Nationally, about 1.6% annual growth based upon GDP. That's better than Q4, but certainly below potential, which is generally speaking 2%. So what's really going on is consumers are still spending. That's really important.
Okay.
About 70% of the US economy is consumption, us buying things. We stop buying, bad things happen. But the biggest problem is, again, it's the 800-pound gorilla, if you want to call it that, is inflation. And what's going on with inflation? Well, we do this little thing with Iran going on right now.
Right.
And that is really kind of putting a spanner in the works, so to speak, regarding overall growth. Because you've got CPI, which is Consumer Price Index, running about 3.8% annualized, highest level since 2022.
Really?
And the Fed's preferred gauge is actually a different one, PCE. So and that is running at around 3.3. That's not a good place when you really want to be down around that 2% mark. So big problem is everything's more expensive.
Yep.
Because we have to ship everything around, and that requires gas. And I'm not sure the last time you filled up your gas tank was, but it's a mortgage payment almost to do that.
Yeah.
So as and when that ends, it's going to get better. So it's quite remarkable. We are actually still growing, but we're growing below the level, quite frankly, that we should be had we not gone to war with Iran.
Yeah, that's interesting. I appreciate the kind of the details behind that. It's more than it's just things are expensive. So what about when we zoom into Washington? How are we doing as a state in the economy? Similar
spot, actually. The economy is kind of mixed coming into 2026. So overall, we've seen some declines in wholesale trade, declines in construction. We've slowed down a lot of building going on. We might talk about that a bit later on. But here specifically, again, the tech sector is what's driving a lot of people to kind of wonder what's going on because of all the tech layoffs that are occurring. Yep. And a lot of businesses, I think a lot of them actually just saying, well, it's AI. I don't think it really is. We're seeing some adoption, but not to that degree. But they're just really kind of trimming the fat in a lot of respects. So I think they got a bit bloated actually going through COVID, paring that back. But that obviously has a fairly major impact, not just on Washington State, but certainly on the central Puget Sound, because they tend to be high-paying jobs.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about housing and interest rates. I did some Googling, and it said that housing prices are coming down in Seattle, and it's getting to be potentially more of a balanced market, meaning it's not just a seller's market. My questions are, why did that happen, and what does this mean for people in Seattle?
Well, I mean, I think if you look at Seattle specifically, and certainly at King County, it's kind of fascinating picture of what's going on. And everyone is saying, oh no, there's all this inventory on the market. Therefore we get that supply-demand imbalance. And my first thought is, well, where were we during the same month in 2019? Which you could argue is the last, quote, normal month, although real estate certainly has not been normal for a very long time here. And it really isn't. But what we have seen is that new listings coming on, which is what I tend to track more than anything else, they've slowed down, which they tend to do in the summer. But overall inventory levels are high. And why are they high? Well, you still have a lot of homeowners saying, oh no, I pruned my rhododendron tree, it's worth $100,000 more than the guy next door. And so we have expectations. And the trouble is a lot of them don't have to sell. And I say, well, no, if I can get this price, then I will sell. If I don't, then I won't. So we're seeing a lot more inventory stay on the market a bit longer. Now, on the buyer's perspective, goes back to that uncertainty. Now, what do we do when we are uncertain about anything, whether it's the economy, our job, anything else? We do nothing. We freeze in place. Yeah. And for 98% of us, buying a home is the most expensive thing we will buy in our lives. Are we going to do that when we're not sure about the future? No, we're not. At the same time, we look at where mortgage rates were through COVID, down that sub 3%, 30, now significantly above that. And that obviously hits people's buying power. For every 1 percentage point, mortgage rates go up. If a home buyer wants to keep the payment the same, they can borrow 10% less. It's just mathematics. So we are seeing really kind of a bit of a logjam going on. Buyers are sitting on the sidelines. Sellers are saying, I'm not going to reduce my price. The question is going to be, who's going to blink first?
Do you think, I think I remember last episode you saying that don't expect interest rates to be as low as they have been in the past. So where are they at right now? Do you think they're going to start coming down? Where are we at?
Well, it'd be really nice to say they're going to come down. I think they can come down a little bit. And again, you actually have to blame the war right now. Because when we saw that, obviously that hit inflation. When inflation goes up, mortgage rates are based in essence on the yield on 10-year treasuries. Okay. So what you do is you take the interest rate on 10-year T-bills, put a risk premium, about 2% on top of that, and that's where mortgage rates are. That's how it first started back in, April of 1971. And it kind of really works out very well, generally speaking. However, when inflation's high, well, you've got people that buy treasuries say, well, I need to get a return on interest rate above the rate of inflation, or in essence, I'm losing money. Mm-hmm. So right now we're above 6.6% on a 30-year fix. It was this morning. Down actually a little bit from where we were a year ago, but certainly well off the levels that we saw in 2021, 2022. Now, you mentioned about, as I said last time, don't expect much relief. And that is actually true, because I think that the long-term, what's called the terminal rate on 10-year treasury is around 4%. So by my math, that puts mortgage rates at around 6%. So it's above where they should be, but not by far. And I think that that's really, we're going to get back there. Probably won't see it now until some point in the early to mid part of next year. But that's going to be the long-term rate. So get used to it, I think is the best way. But the consequences of having very low mortgage rates, as we saw through COVID, means that everyone bought a home or they refinanced, and now they're not willing to sell and lose that mortgage rate, what's called golden handcuffs. And they say, no. Or if they have to move, let's say for their jobs, they're not selling the house, they're renting it out.
Yeah, we're seeing
and it's actually cash flowing and making the money. So that in turn has actually kept prices higher than you'd expect to see. So we're not seeing that big shift on the downside, although asking prices have softened just a bit, but it's still in King County more than $1 million.
Yeah, I think what was the average? Like 900,000 in King County? Is it still like
on sale price in 2025 was I think 975 or 985,000, so just shy of $1 million. And of course, asking prices are obviously going to be higher than that. So, but we have seen it soften a little bit, but not by as much as you like to think. So any expectation that supply is going to overwhelm demand and prices are going to collapse and, maybe I'll be able to afford to buy a house. Oh, good luck. I mean, I'm not saying that mortgage rates can't come down, but be careful what you wish for. Because if they do drop down below that 6%, it likely means we are either in a recession or about to go into one. So be careful what you ask for.
Right. Wow, that's really good insight. Okay, I want to switch over to talk about the House Bill 1110. We talked about it last episode last year, but I wanted to check in and see how that's doing. And for those listening, and you could probably explain it better than I can, but it was to address some of that middle housing. So basically it took some restrictions off where more people could build what we typically call like a mother-in-law. But feel free to add on to that. But I guess how has that had an impact in Seattle, if any?
Well, I think in general, when 1110 was passed, and for total kind of transparency, I helped write it a long time ago now, but it passed in 2023.
Okay, 23, got it.
So what it really means is that depending on population thresholds or your proximity to mass transit, you can now build anything up to a 6-unit building on any single family zoned area. But yeah, depending upon population. So you're not going to be able to do that, let's say in Walla Walla, but at a minimum, you can put now a duplex in. Now, over and above that, you mentioned ADUs, accessory dwelling units. And that has had an impact. We actually saw permitting on more than 2,000 of them in 2025. Now, is it a good thing? Absolutely it is. Because if you think about it, here in Seattle, for example, we are suffering decisions that were made in 1924.
Oh.
And why do I say that? You've got to bear with me a bit on this one. That was Seattle, the city of Seattle's first comprehensive plan. Meaning before then, if you wanted to build a stable next to your house, crack on, no one's going to stop you. Well, they then decided, okay, well, we're going to partition the city of Seattle out. So commercial here, commercial there, single family here, multifamily, well, maybe a bit here. So what happened? We built it out. So why is that important? It's important because if you can build up to 6 units, where's the land to build it on? There isn't. So it means buying several houses, for example. Well, one, that's going to be like herding cats. But more importantly, you're paying retail when you only want the land.
Because it already has something on
it
it.
has a house on it. So it doesn't make any financial sense to do it. So it's not a panacea. And I said for the last couple of years, it was never going to be, but it was a good start. And we've already seen a number of other bills that have actually been building on the fact that we know we're not going to create any more land, and certainly not here in Western Washington. We know because of growth management, where we define where you can and cannot build. If you look at the total land mass of Washington state, less than 4% is inside urban growth boundaries.
Oh.
Now, outside of those boundaries, you can build a house, one house per 5 acres or one house per 20 acres. Literally.
Wow.
So yeah, so you really thought about, so land prices therefore are what? They elevated, they're high. So it was a good start. We've seen some impact, but my opinion is that in the next 20 years, we need to build statewide about another 1.1 million housing units. Not going to happen.
Yeah.
And so we're going to have more demand than there is supply.
Yeah. And that's something I've been hearing is that, there's a housing shortage in Seattle. I feel like we hear that a lot. And to your point, this was a step in the right direction. It's not going to cure everything, but we have to kind of come at it from all different angles. So something I've heard people put out there is we have all this empty commercial real estate space downtown. Why not turn some of that into housing? From your perspective, why is it not that simple? What are some things that are challenging for that?
Well, one, actually, in some respects, now you can.
Okay.
So, but will you? So let's just break this down a bit. Now, we all know what the downtown office vacancy rate's like right now. Last time I checked, it's about 36%.
Yeah.
So more than 1 square foot in 3 is empty. And of course, a lot of people did come to me and say, well, Matthew, why don't we just kind of convert all these massive office buildings into housing, problem solved? Not quite that easy. And why isn't it? Well, if you think about a more modern high-rise building, you've got a lot of problems, one of which is core depth. So generally speaking, you have a bank of elevators in the center of the building. So to convert to residential, you're going to have a lot of very narrow kind of bowling alley units with very little natural light. That's a problem. But another problem actually as big is plumbing and plumbing penetration. So you tend to have a couple of spots where the restrooms are, or maybe a kitchen. Well, you're going to need plumbing to all the units. That's going to be really expensive to do as well. So you think about those things, and please don't expect that the owner of that building is going to give it to you for nothing. Doesn't work. So that, in generally speaking, if you think about a lot of product types, we've seen a couple of small conversions, but not that much. Now, some other laws have been passed, which I think are actually more exciting. And it's House Bill 1757, I think.
Okay.
Now, that particular bill means you can convert commercial into residential. But where I find this one could work really well is strip malls.
Oh.
See, I don't think we're overbuilt when it comes to strip malls. I think we are under demolished. Who goes there? They're horribly overparked. So now you can actually do residential. I think that that's low-hanging fruit. I think that has the potential to really be a bit of a game changer.
Is that what we did up in Northgate a little bit?
To a degree, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So now Northgate Mall's empty, which again, it doesn't surprise me. For years, I've said we're going to lose 50% of our regional malls in America in the next decade. I stand by it. I mean, Northgate would tend to be used now before it shut down completely, people power walking, and that's about it. So we did see some development on the parking lots. Some residential went in there. So yeah, so it is that way. But if you think about some of the smaller strip malls that you see all over places, one, they tend to be somewhat central. Two, they tend to be close to residential anyway. A lot of them are pretty close to lines of mass transit. All in all, I think that is something which, not immediately, as everything's going to be expensive because land's expensive and labor's expensive and materials and all this kind of stuff. But I think that it has the potential to be a significant positive when it comes to the ability for us to provide much needed additional housing across the state, not just here in Seattle.
Absolutely. I think it's a really creative idea. I haven't heard people talking a lot about it. Matthew, is there anything else on housing or interest rates that you want to make sure that the listeners know?
So when you think about mortgage rates, certainly it's hard. And right now we've got this kind of pull push whereby home buyers saying we're there, but you're asking too much money. Home sellers are saying, if I don't have to sell, I won't. Yeah, I think ultimately we're going to come back to some sense of normalcy. But from a home seller perspective, you just got to be reasonable. If you're stuck out there thinking, no, my house is worth $1 bajillion, well, you're likely not going to sell it. From a home buyer's perspective, I've always tended to say the same thing, which is, if you can afford it, if you're not going to be having to stay up at night worrying about your mortgage payment, home buying is a great thing to do. But don't overstress yourself.
Yeah.
I think that is one of the biggest concerns out there. Because what's fascinating about owning a home, and 65% of us own our homes and 35% rent nationally.
Nationally, okay.
It's a bit different here. It's a bit lower in terms of home ownership rate. Is that we're the only country in the world that has a 30-year fixed rate mortgage.
What do other people have?
It's all adjustable. It's all arms.
Oh.
Because a 30-year mortgage makes zero financial sense. No, it does to us, but not to lenders or to financial institutions. Because if you think about it this way, why would I lend you $500,000, let's say 6%, on a 30-year period with no prepayment penalty? No one would. But the only reason why it works here is Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and Ginnie Mae. They can borrow money from the government at ultra low rates. So it works. Now, why is it such an amazing tool? Because the fact that homeowners have got built up massive levels of wealth through housing, more than any other thing, and not through crypto or anything else. It's because if you have a mortgage on your home, does that payment go up over time? It doesn't. It stays the same.
Right.
Now, fingers crossed, what does your income do?
Hopefully goes up. Yeah.
Fingers crossed it goes
Yeah.
up. So therefore, your share of your income you dedicate to a mortgage payment does what?
Goes down.
Goes down,
Yeah.
right. And that's the amazing thing. Yet, if you are a renter, well, one, you're paying somebody else's mortgage, but is your rent going to go up? Yes. Why? Because their property tax is going to go up and blah, blah, blah. So you can never really get ahead of it. And that is why the median household wealth of a renter household in this country is a rounding error compared to a homeowner, where the median wealth is about $450,000. So most of that comes from housing.
Yeah, but I don't have to fix my own dishwasher, Matthew.
There is always going to be that. And you're right. But you know what? You can't paint your walls either.
I know. It's true. No, I'm well aware that it's financially makes more sense, but maybe in the future. Those are really good stats. I'm going to shift over to jobs. And I know that's part of kind of what you research, jobs reports and things like that. What kind of stats are we seeing? Obviously, I'm seeing a lot of headlines of layoffs from Starbucks and Microsoft and all that kind of stuff, but what are you seeing?
On the unemployment perspective, we're still waiting on May's numbers, haven't quite come out yet. April, our unemployment rate here in King County was 5.3%. Now that is nationally, we're at mid fours, I believe, last time I checked. 5.2 at the state level. So now around 5% is not great, but it's not terrible either.
Okay.
But if I think about it here in King County, what we've seen is the labor force shrinking. So how they calculate the unemployment rate is you take the civilian labor force, aged 16 above, 16 to 65, and then you divide it into the number of people who are working. That gives you your unemployment rate. So we've actually seen a decline here in King County. So the labor force has shrunk by about 5,600 people over the course of last year. And yet the unemployment rate is still going up. So that's not good. No one actually ever wants to see that. Most of it, yes, it is because of what's going on in the tech sector. We're also seeing a shift. Median incomes have been adjusting because we're losing some of those higher paid jobs. Yet we still have demand for lower paid jobs, baristas and these kinds of people. So that's making an adjustment there. So is it a good place right now? No, it's not. I think a lot of companies are really just saying, you know what? Do I want to hire more people when we have all this uncertainty? Well, no, they're not. So what do? Well, they decide they can do one thing: increase productivity. How do you do that? Work harder.
Yep.
No help, just work harder.
Yeah.
And because of the labor market environment today, a couple of years ago, we were literally, because there was such a shortage of workers, we were saying to the boss, you know what? Pay me more, or I'm going down the street and they will pay me more. And so now we found that the shoe is, in essence, on the other foot, where the employer's saying, you going somewhere? Okay. And so we're really saying, no, thank you. I love you and I love my job. Yeah. And they're saying, but so that's an interesting thing. So we are seeing improved productivity is going up, sure, but we're not hiring more people.
Yeah.
And we're just trying to push our existing workforce harder until such times as we believe that the future, again, is a little less foggy, and we can start projecting out over the next couple of years and then potentially looking to hire more people. But a lot of companies are still saying the same thing, and that is AI is going to take away from the need for human beings. I think we're further away from that point than many believe. And for one, quite frankly, really simple reason, power. The power grid cannot, it's not broad or robust enough. So unless we come to terms with mini nuclear, and of course, anyone mentions nuclear, there's like 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, bad things happen. It's actually remarkably safe, but until we can do that, it can't grow at the pace I think a lot of people are expecting. Are people using it? Yeah, once in a while I'll throw something on there to mainly a math equation because I geek out on it. And the response comes back, and generally speaking, I look at it and well, that's rubbish. So no, it's my job is safe. I think it's going to take a while longer, but we are certainly, it's not going to go away.
Yeah.
And there are people that say that, AI is going to be the next most important thing to the human race next to fire. Which is a bit of a scary thing to say.
Yeah. That's wild. Do you have any stats about Seattle compared to Bellevue, or any personal opinions in terms of the job market?
Oh boy. Yes, I do. I have been fortunate enough to have worked with Seattle City Council members for a long time. I mean, going back to Conlon, Compton, Dick McIver, even Nick LaCarter. And now we've always been somewhat liberal here, in Seattle. Then we had a period a number of years ago, it kind of went way, way, way over with a couple of council members who now no longer are around. I like to think we're moving a bit back to the middle, but I think the new mayor is going in a direction which I'm not necessarily sure is the right way to go. And why do I say that? Well, anytime we like to think that we can change our own environments and don't really care what's going on the other side of Lake Washington, what happens? Well, that allows companies to say, well, you're doing what? And guess what? I'm going to Bellevue.
Yeah, we're out.
So unless we're thinking about it on a regional basis or even a statewide basis, it does allow companies to say, well, no, I'm not going to put up with this, whether that is taxes that the city is putting on, whether it's concerns over homelessness, over crime. And those things are certainly all still there. And I know companies now that they tell me how much they're paying per month for private companies to provide security, and it is a lot of money. And I'm not talking about downtown retail either. These are professional business service companies.
I heard there's a group in Wallingford, a couple companies were coming together to pay for private security.
Yeah, because again, you have to do that. Again, you have got your staff, and if you're trying to get them back into the office again, which is still going on, you better make sure it's safe. So I think that anytime we try to solve everyone's problems based upon our own perception at a citywide basis, that allows people to go somewhere else. So if you look at Bellevue's, let's say their office vacancy rate, not brilliant, but it's certainly in the high 20s, I believe, but better than Seattle. And so I think they're looking to encourage companies, say, don't like it there, come over here. And so many companies now are global or certainly national, unless you're a law firm and you kind of tend to have to be close to the courts. Sure. Outside of that, they're like, yeah, well, we can be in Bellevue. We're still Seattle, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's happening. Now, at the state level, my biggest worry is the millionaire's tax.
Yeah, we did a little episode about that, yeah.
And again, my opinion maybe it's slightly different. And that is the fact that any company looking to grow in our region, a couple of things they think about. One, is there a talented workforce that I can hire? Check that box. You guys are wicked smart here, so got it covered. The second thing is, how much do I have to pay people? And the biggest component of salaries is cost of living. So at what point do they say, I got to pay people how much? So they're not living in a shoebox? Well, then Austin, Texas can be more interesting for them. Boise, Idaho can be more interesting for them. A number of other markets. So we have been remarkably lucky for the last century. We've lived on the shoulders of giants, starting by Bill Boeing, South Lake Union, 1917. So we went where Boeing went. Well, then, of course, the Boeing bust happened. 80s, well, a couple of kids were playing around with computers in high school. We know what happened there. And then the 90s, there was some guy selling books out of his garage. And we know what happened there. So unless somebody right now is in high school is going to come up with the next latest, greatest thing for us, we need to attract companies to be here, to expand here. And unless we can fix housing and housing affordability, that's going to be a problem. On top of that, if we have companies looking to leave because the principals are saying, I'm not going to pay 10% of every penny I make above $1 million to the state. No, let's go somewhere else. They can take their companies with them. They will take their toy box and leave. So I think that decisions being made right now can echo for decades potentially. Is this tax going to stay around? I think, well, it's going to get appealed. I know Rob McKenna believes that it is going to get overruled on appeal. It's possible. I would not be surprised for that to be the case, but you certainly can't guarantee it. And companies right now, no matter Howard Schultz left that day and went to Florida, whatever, but we've got to be very thoughtful about how do we continue to grow industry in general. And that's going to mean we've got to stop companies from leaving, get them to come in. And what's stopping them? Well, cost of housing and the head-ups in the company and principals saying, no, I'm not going to give that part of my income or my salary away to the state of Washington.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, we talked about not just the millionaire's tax, but it's the combination of all the taxes that are hitting some of these business owners. And more than that, to what you're saying is like, even if it doesn't pass, it might get appealed or whatever. There's this general attitude that now what people think the city council or the leadership here in Seattle thinks towards businesses and high-earning people.
Well, that's exactly it. Again, think about housing here. Price of housing in Seattle, in the city of Seattle, sale price, again, close to $1 million. Yet if they're worried about being able to take the kids to the park, then they're not going to do it. So trying to put taxes onto these people and not fixing things means that those housing values will start dropping potentially, and their share of property tax revenue that the city gets is going to drop. And if you're charging businesses to be here, they're going to leave. Be careful what you wish for. It can become almost a self-fulfilling prophecy.
The more I learn about the city and taxes, I've learned so much on this podcast, but it's understanding how everything is connected. You kind of like, you fill this hole and be like, oh, this will solve our problem. And then it's all these other things that it affects and all the other changes that happen from it. So
well, it does. It's very easy to say, don't get me wrong. Housing, in my opinion, is an organic good. We've needed shelter ever since we kind of crawled out the primordial ooze to find a rock to hide under. We are likely always going to need it. But what's it going to look like and where is it going to be? Now, out of that next 20 year of demand for 1.1 million housing units in the state of Washington, more than 600,000 will be for low-income households. I'm not talking about people buying homes in Laurelhurst. And that's probably more than half, probably close to 65%. And that's one of the biggest problems we have.
Well, I was going to say low-income housing. For a long time, when I heard that word, I was like, oh, like really people in poverty. And I started looking, I think you only have to make, what is it, like 80,000 to qualify for low income? It's like the medium income or something like that. Yeah.
So if you think of King County median income is about $120-something thousand a year. So yeah, but there's two ways of looking at it. People talk a lot about workforce housing. I mean, firefighters, nurses, teachers, these kinds of people. Now they're generally speaking people who make 80 to 120% of median income. They're really getting no help in terms of subsidies. They just can't afford it.
Yeah.
I mean, from a first-time buyer, making certain assumptions, there's only one county in Washington state that's affordable. Ferry County. Yeah, I had to look it up as well.
I was going to say, where am I?
No one wants to live there.
Yeah.
Great respect to people who might be listening from Ferry County. But it's out in eastern Washington. But then when you get down below that to 50% of median income, and that's still people making $65,000 a year. Now, they can get the support, sure, but those low-income housing developers like Bellwether, Lehigh, Shannon Lee's Force of Nature, they are competing with market rate developers for the land, unless they've got to deal with it with the city or whatever that may be. They can't do it. They can't compete. So again, it's a big problem, and their construction costs are higher, et cetera, et cetera. So programs, multifamily tax exemptions, there are certain ways that government can help. But quite frankly, we have a significant housing shortfall. We've got 8.1 million people living in Washington state now. We're the 13th most populous state in the union. And we're growing.
Yeah.
And it's going to get to 9.3 in the next 20 years.
Wow.
And they are mostly going to be focused in Western Washington because King, Pierce, and Snohomish counties home to more than half of Washington State's population.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. Well, this has been so interesting. I love having you on the show. Is there anything you want to close out with? Maybe a prediction for next year or any last closing thoughts for our audience?
Well, for the balance of this year and into next year, making certain assumptions on what the federal government will not do, I think that the future can become less foggy, using the analogy we used earlier. Certainly in the second half, well into the fall. Then, of course, we've got mid-year or midterm elections coming up. That could change things dramatically. So from a housing perspective, I think pricing will go up. I think we're probably looking at that 1% to 3% range. No big collapse. So I'm really not that worried. But the pace of growth is certainly going to be lower here than about the 5.5% annual gains that is the long-term average here in King County. Labour market as well. I think we will start seeing that pick up again when businesses become more certain about their future and their borrowing costs as well, that's a big problem right now. So mortgage rates, they're going to certainly not get down below 6. I'm hopeful that by the fall we will be closer to 6 than 6.5. We could get down into that 6, maybe 5.9, maybe middle part of next year. But again, I think really that 6% is going to be the center of the seahorse. It's really going to be kind of knocking either side of it. On Seattle specifically, rather than King County, I think we're probably going to see a bit more of further price correction. Mainly that's going to come in the way of the condominium market, because condos really, when we had that out migration because of work from home, they just got nailed. Now, I think they were oversold. So I think they might have to go down another maybe 3 to 4%. But I think the upside on urban condos is actually better than in suburbia. So again, we're not going to see anything built.
Right.
I would be surprised to see a type 1, a concrete and steel high-rise condo building, start construction. If one happens in the next 10 years, I'll be surprised.
Wow.
Because it's just so expensive to build. And how deep is that market for housing where you get $2 million will get you 1,000 square feet? Not very much. So I think that we could see a resurgence there. And again, generally speaking, it has been oversold. Assuming we start getting more business back downtown, retail starts feeling a bit more comfortable, and hopefully the safety issues start to be addressed a bit more forthrightly, a bit more speedier manner, which is certainly what I'd like to see. That's going to be the upside. So no terrific collapse. I think underperformance through the balance of this year. Jobs, again, will probably do the same thing. I don't see the jobless rate spiking, but it's going to be higher than we have become used to. But we will start adding jobs again, I think, really probably going to fall, if not then early next year. So I think glass half full is where I would describe it, both on housing and on the labour front as well. But are there obstacles in our path? Yes. Do some big decisions need to be made at the state and the local level for our elected officials? Absolutely they do.
Right.
I just hope they're listening. They're prepared to try and find a balance and not going to any one extreme or the other.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a really great way to end. So thank you again to Matthew Gardner. I'll put his information in the show notes. He can speak at your next event. And then I also wanted to thank Element by Marriott downtown, the hotel we're recording at. We're here in the Sound boardroom. It's beautiful. It worked perfectly for us. It's a lovely hotel. Shout out to Angela May. She works in the sales department. I've known her over the years in the events industry. So I really appreciate her hooking it up with this space. So thank you, Element by Marriott Downtown Hotel. And thank you, Matthew.
You are always welcome. Good to see you again, Rachel.
You too.
Take care.
This has been The Weekly with production assistance from Nick Patry. If you liked what you heard, rate us and write a review on Apple Podcast or Spotify. We love listener feedback, so if you have any story suggestions, comments, or complaints, email us at info@theweeklyseattle.com. Make sure to check back next Sunday for the latest local business news. We'll see you next time.